This episode is brought to you by Monkey Nutrition.
Like it, I don't take it, you know.
So I was reading on your wiki page, you apparently had 80 jobs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I did. I left college and I went and lived in Europe for a couple of years, and I bummed around and I did construction work and dishwasher, and I worked in a hotel as a receptionist, and I taught English. I just did everything.
Were you ever concerned that maybe things weren't coming together? Did you ever think?
I wasn't so concerned. I was a little bit concerned. My parents were really concerned. They were quite concerned. By the time I was in my mid-30s, they were wondering about me. But I knew I wanted to write, and I'd get depressed because I hadn't found what I wanted to do, but I never gave up. I really never gave up. And so when the opportunity came to write a book, I was so ready. I call it in the 33 Strategies of War, I call it the death ground strategy. It's based on Sun Tzu, in one of his chapters, where he says you want to put the army on death ground, where their backs are to the mountain, and the sea they're facing their backs are to the sea, and the mountain is right there, and it's either win or die, you know. And that's death ground. So I talk in the book about putting yourself sometimes on death ground to motivate you. And by the time that book came, opportunity, I was on death ground because it was either make this book work or go back to sucky Hollywood jobs. Right. So I wasn't going to let that happen, you know.
I think
Great story.
It's almost an immigrant mentality we talk about sometimes on the show. I mean, I'm an immigrant here, so is Nick. It's like when you come to this city, you don't have a home you can go to. And if you do go home, you're almost like you're failing by going back to Hollywood, maybe for you. And so you kind of are forced to kind of do or die.
How'd you guys find each other?
Jiu-jitsu.
Oh.
Yeah.
Here in London?
In London, yeah. Oh. Of all crazy places. That's something I wanted to ask you. What did you learn from Europe as your experiences when you were over here working?
I learned the art of seduction.
Okay, you've got to expound on that.
Well, I was working in a hotel in Paris where all the models stayed. This is in the 80s. And there was this man who would come there. He was this tall Brazilian guy named Eduardo, very handsome. He was like this master. He's the best seducer I've ever seen. Wow. Better than Neil. Neil's a great seducer. But this is a natural. This man was just so brilliant. And I just watched him pick off these models like they were ducks in a barrel, you know, or whatever the metaphor is.
Fish.
Fishing. And I just sort of watched him, learned, you know, some basic lessons and tried to apply them. So I definitely learned the art of seduction while I was living in Paris.
That's so cool.
And I don't know, I think it toughened me up. I was exposed to all different cultures. So when I came back to America, I didn't have that kind of tunnel vision a lot of Americans have. It was and I learned lots of languages, which was a skill that I've used my whole life. Just opening up your mind. You know, young people are often too in a hurry to make it. And they miss out on things like that, where you think you're not really doing anything important. But actually, what I learned in Europe in those 2 years was extremely important. I think made me maybe who I am.
You know, on a similar note to what he's just said, if I could go back to the 20-year-old Nick, I'd say to him, just don't stress about things. Just relax and have fun. You know, because I think you were the same, just pushing, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I don't regret it now, but it's funny, I've got an 8-year-old stepdaughter, and in my mind, it's like, okay, she gets this, goes to university, and starts at a law firm, and then she's okay. And then now I'm just thinking, you know, why does that make her okay? Maybe she needs to go do this and to go find what she really wants to do first.
Well, let's say everybody has a path in life, and there's no cookie cutter path that we can say for everyone. And some people are better with structure. They intuit the fact that maybe they are a little bit chaotic inside, and they need structure, and they don't want to do this, go to Europe and mess around. And I think that's totally fine, as long as what they end up doing, or your daughter ends up doing, is something that they're genuinely interested in some deep way. Then that's fine. You don't need to mess around. You can go straight into it, and you can be intense and focused, and it's beautiful. What you don't want to do is to not have the experience of exploring, to go into something that you don't love and waste your youth doing law, and your soul isn't into it, and then waking up in your mid-30s, you didn't even have a youth, and you didn't pursue what you love, and man, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So do one or the other, but don't do this middle thing that's going to screw you up.
This week on London Real, we're taking you back to our 2012 interview with futurist Jacques Fresco.
We must eventually design a language that's not subject to interpretation. Whenever you talk to people, you think you're talking to people. It goes in their ear and comes out in relation to their background. They don't hear exactly what you say. There is no way you can think outside of your culture.
What if we elected you president this year and you started in the Oval Office January 20th, 2013?
I'd be shot in 3 days. Who makes the decisions in the Venus Project? The answer, nobody. They arrive at them. We abolish all separate nations because they're all corrupt.
Jacques Fresco has been designing cities of the future.
What do you think of England and London?
Foul, awful, no city planning. All cultures are corrupt.
And the banking system, what will we do with
Bank
that?
gone, no money anymore.
On Sunday, London Real presents Jacques Fresco, The Venus Project, Redux.
Most politicians know nothing. Please don't take my word for it. Ask them.